Best ball is back. We are back. Best ball summer. It kicks off now. It is going to be a long, hot, sweaty one here in Fantasy Sanctuary. Kicking things off in style with Underdog Best Ball Mania. Pretty similar contest structure to last year, Tyler, but lots of little nice nuances. This contest filled so quickly that we hopped in just about to start the stream, and straight away it was full. Almost 5,000 people already in when it's been alive for what, like 10 hours or so?
I think it dropped close to like almost lunch here by like 11 Central. So not even. We're talking maybe 4 to 5 hours live.
Just insatiable appetite. And obviously Underdog launched a bunch of contests today. If you haven't clocked it already, go and check out the stuff that's in the lobby. Go and check out the stuff that's in the socials. Lots of interesting ones, everything from the $3 Schnauzer, the $5 puppy, all the way up to the flagship contest, Best Ball Mania 6, which is what we'll be drafting in tonight. $25 entry. Obviously, if you haven't signed up to Underdog somehow, use promo code Sanctuary when joining for up to $1,000 in bonus cash, as well as a bonus pick. And you can see there the tournament prize breakdown: 2 million up top, 1 million to second place, $500,000 to third, as well as the return of regular season prizes. What was the regular season prize? Is it $100,000, Tyler?
I believe it's 500,000 to first for the regular season scorer.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah, I think it pays out like the top 1,000 or so. So not as much and not as deep of regular season payout, but I think they did a pretty good job compromising in the middle, rewarding some regular season while 90% of the payoffs are still in the playoffs, in the finals. So I think that's pretty good compromise for everyone the last few years of tournament prizes.
Yeah, I think that works nicely. We're on the clock with our first pick, 106, Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors. I feel like Jahmyr Gibbs is a bit of a value here. We were kind of taking him a little bit higher. Do you want to go Gibbs, or do you want to take one of the wide receivers?
Would love to go Gibbs. I have done about 10 drafts today, and what I'm kind of noticing was something I kind of noticed at the tail end of the pre-draft contest, which is, and the hilarity is, all of the comfy rookie clicks late have turned to dust by and large, with maybe a few panning out for what we know right now, especially in 18 rounds versus 20 rounds. So structure becomes a lot more tight and important to focus on. And there's a lot of the veteran and year 2, year 3 types of receivers that are still slowly inching up that no one really has a lot of interest in, that make up the last few rounds of these drafts, including some of the tight ends that no one wants. And so I think structurally, I'd like to attack some of these running backs early, especially some of the mispriced guys, because it really does feel like if you don't have your running back room mostly wrapped up by about round 14, 15, you're in the muck, and you're just having to reach on player types that might barely be 17th round picks by this time in August. Because again, we are drafting a contest that is likely not going to close until a week or two before week 1 kicks off at the latest. So we have to be mindful about, trying to attack our edge now with the lack of information we have. And some of these really rock solid running backs are probably the better way to do that early on.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is going to be incredibly obvious to people who haven't been drafting so far is obviously you've got some rookies up high, but also veterans. There's going to be a lot of movement there, as our good friend says. CD back ahead of the RBs became consensus so quickly after the draft. Feels right. CD, massive winner coming off the draft. The Cowboys added virtually nobody. I mean, we didn't really add anybody to the skill game whatsoever. I think that you could also look at guys like Jalen Tolbert and Jake Ferguson as like little bumps to where they were going pre-draft and say they could do all right, because there's not really masses out there on the free agency market that make you think, okay, well, that's going to eat into volume of players who are established a little. So, yeah, very much interested in CD Lamb now as that wide receiver 3, slightly ahead of Puka Nacua and Malik Neighbors for me. Bo Nix goes in the second round. So somebody star method, somebody clicked the wrong button. But, yeah, that's not what you want to see in our first.
Yeah, as long as they don't have 3 more of those, I think we'll be all right with not getting it thrown out on day 1. No badge people like to get their guys. I'm not gonna sling turds just yet, but he makes another bad pick, and we might have to just jump to another room to make sure that we give the good people actionable content. We're on the clock. Achane falling about 3 picks past ADP we mentioned it, in the show. It's a little fake ADP right now. So HN, Brown, Taylor, McBride, these are the guys I'm kind of looking at here. Where do you lean?
I mean, my lean would be to Trey McBride, but I'd be fine if you want to push one of like Achan ahead of him.
No, I think McBride deserves to go around here, and I'm very okay taking him, considering guys like Josh Jacobs, Kyron Williams, Brees
Yeah.
Hall, amongst others, are guys that are going to be available in the third round, and some folks that just haven't moved up enough. So getting that elite tight end, it may not be the edge we make it out to be, but earning the kind of volume that Trey and Bowers earn, like their Andrews, Ertz, and Kelsey counterparts of their prime, with the right season of that elite target share and touchdown equity combining together, massive advance rate and massive playoff types to get. And with some of these tight ends being in now muddied waters with some of these new rookie tight ends, also some tight ends now attached to offenses with no clear quarterback answer.
Yeah.
Look at the new Saints that now make them really rough clicks because tight ends to matter need to score touchdowns, which means the offense needs to score touchdowns. And some of these offenses are looking like dogs to score many touchdowns.
Yeah, and I'm fine kind of betting on consistency, and that's what we should be getting from the Cardinals. We should be getting an improving offense, and you look at what they did, and it was just virtually nothing on offense that should concern us. It's still James Conner, it's still the running backs behind him in Trey Benson that we think, maybe Trey Benson sees a bit of an uptick this year, but there's no guarantee to that. And then at wide receiver, I've seen people today saying, well, it was a good bump for Michael Wilson. And I like Michael Wilson. I think that he's a decent player. But if you're telling me that this offense didn't add anything, then I'd rather push my chips in on Trey McBride and a potential step from Marvin Harrison this year rather than going too crazy over Michael Wilson.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think that the biggest winners are the guys that did not receive any target or talent competition. We mentioned CeeDee Lamb. Cowboys end up not getting a wide receiver at 12. That's huge for CeeDee Lamb. Guys on the market that you would worry about, Keenan Allen, that would push CeeDee Lamb out of his natural power slot type of role. And I think the Cowboys realized that would not help their offense as much as, they would like to think from just adding a receiver. So from a fantasy perspective, it's good for those of us simplifying. Go after talented players with just wheels up volume. And if you hit on touchdown upside, you're smashing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're about to be back on the clock. And one of the reasons I was fine with Trey McBride in the last one was because it felt like we'd get better options at wide receiver and running back here. I'd be okay with Chase Brown. I talked in the Discord earlier that I think he should be a round 2 talent, but I'd also be fine with T. Higgins potentially. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go with the value on Chase Brown potentially? Or do you think we need the wide receiver?
Let's grab T. If the room's going to give us T. Higgins in the third,
Yep.
I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, because at the end of the day, we want the same thesis about Chase Brown is the same thesis with all the Cincinnati guys. It's attached to a very talented offense. The defense is likely to not be very good. The offense has to score a lot, and the clear guys at the top of the pecking order are going to benefit wildly, especially if Burrow and this offense actually have a quick start to the season for once and run pure on just passing volume. Both guys should benefit from that, and I don't expect T to get cheaper as the season goes on, especially if we get any sort of news about Reek or Wilson. You look at the volume for Wilson and Reek, but the questionable quarterbacks, questionable offenses. With just history tells us there's risk with those guys. T. Higgins, really the risk is just injury. So
Yeah.
for him is that if he runs pure on not missing 4 to 5 games a season, then just his touchdown upside alone is very massive, including if Jamar Chase misses any time.
I just got to circle to one particular player there. Calvin Ridley, back end of round 3. Now, that's a little hot for our guy who's already taken Bo Nix, but Calvin Ridley was somebody we talked about being potentially a massive winner when he got Cam Ward. And again, the Titans didn't really do much. Xavier Restrepo, who was a hot name for a little period, suddenly became a very cold name. I don't know whether he's going to have any kind of resurgence in fantasy value, but I'm definitely having to tell myself, try not to get too excited about Calvin Ridley and Chigakonkwo again. But I don't know, man, kind of sneaky in on every year there's one of these kind of dog shit offenses which you look at and go, well, somebody's going to have to get some, and I don't mind this player. And Calvin Ridley kind of feels like that guy who I'll be. Oh, fuck.
Cool. It looks like this draft is getting tanked, so that's very unfortunate. We can do the song and dance to go through and talk about our thoughts, or we can go ahead and just hit the plane and jump in another room.
I mean, let's take this pick and see what happens in the next round. Mike Evans, Devonta Smith, Jameson Williams, Roma Dunze. I'd be okay with. Do you want to go with James Cook? Is that where you're leaning?
No, I'm kind of just letting you.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
want to scare you too much. I don't think. I think Tet belongs atop this. Mike Evans is fine, but I'm okay with either guy here.
Let's go Tet. I think that's a fun one. Obviously, it's hard to imagine that anything makes his value fall. It's not like suddenly people are going to be like going, "Oh my god, Hunter Renfro."
Yeah,
Let's not be taking Tet there. So
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, like to me, not only was Tet dropped into the 50s. He started out. He got his high in the early drafts as like the mid 30s at the 3-4 turn. Potential number one receiver taken, potential top 12. Landing spot like the Cowboys, places that kept his ADP high. Falls as there's rumors that maybe he falls to Green Bay or somewhere in the late to mid 20s. Seahawks. Just rough landing spot. Goes top 8 to a place with very clear needs. Adam Thielen's not on the team next year. Xavier Legette, very raw, missed time, up and down season. Jalen Coker, undrafted free agent, getting drafted in the top 160. Tet McMillan goes number 8 to the Panthers. Canales is a good offensive mind. They don't have a tight end we're worried about. In fact, Trimble and Sanders are reportedly potentially splitting time. Neither one of those guys doing anything. So it's just this offense is begging for a target hog, which is why Thielen has been able to spike in multiple times in the playoffs. And this guy is legit good, and his upside is that he moves around the entire formation and soaks up massive volume with like Malik Neighbors, BTJ-esque athleticism. We heard that he dealt with some injuries late last season and still produced elite production. He gets the elite draft capital, and I'd like to adjust back to this is a potential smash superstar receiver. And potentially an undervalued offense. Both things that I want to target to potentially, lap ADP in the field, especially for the playoff weeks.
yeah. I mean, Tet is just such a. I'm not a perfect prospect in some ways, but he's exactly the kind of player that we just haven't had enough of over the last few years. Like, when you talk about his body shape and size, like it's hard to poke holes in that. And I think I'm very much on board with it and feel like he's got the potential to become an alpha. And if we're gonna say that Bryce Young made a leap towards the back end of last year and assume that he can carry on that with another off season where he gets a bit more stability, then yeah, I'm very much in on Tet, and I don't mind having a bit of a reach there by about half a round or so. We are into round 5. We'll see what happens with the guy after us who's doing his best to stink this draft up. But the team at 102 went wide receiver in round 1 before 4 straight running backs. So there's definitely a lot of different building going on in here. And I think this is the time to do it, taking advantage of those unique builds. It's always fun to start draft season by doing that. Roma Dunze kind of stands out at the top for me. I'd be okay with Trevion Henderson as well, the Patriots running back. I think that there's value there. Kind of nobody else really screams great pick to me. What about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I think this is a really flat area. I think Rome here is more than fine because, him falling a little bit is fine. I don't think it's completely, absolutely necessary because Luther Burden was a second round pick, not a first round pick. A lot of good things said about him, but he seems like, they add Loveland, they add Burden, but Rome was a top 8 pick last year and seemingly the only guy that didn't get some shade from unsolicited comments from the head coach about giving your all every snap. I think Luther Burden's good for Caleb as just another outlet and weapon to be utilized in a very fun way. It was probably one of the best landing spots from a head coach, play calling. This guy made JMO work after missing his entire rookie season, essentially. Using a raw, athletic, explosive guy, but he and DJ Moore kind of overlap more than I think Rome does.
Yeah.
And Rome was probably being priced a little too high. Even now, he's probably a little high considering they did add Loveland and Burden. But we want to buy pieces of this offense. And if they're going to maybe go 12 personnel with two receivers on the field, well, it seems like, which seemingly indicating with Loveland and how they've kind of built their offensive line, Rome stands out to be, the big body guy on the outside who's not getting some shade from the coaching staff about, giving blocking and such like that.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with what you said there. Our guy out of the 9 spot ends up getting 5th round Jalen Hurts, which actually feels like quite a nice price. Maybe we should have been taking Jalen Hurts there, skinny stacked. This is fine saying I'm going to have 80% Waddle at these prices. Yeah, man, this is the year for the Waddle bounce back. I know we were all hoping it was going to come good last year, but very much down with that one. Shout out Best Ball Guy dropping a membership into the chat. Grab that, get in the Discord. Big week for this week. There will be best ball rankings up later on in the week. Rich's rookie guide version 2.0 will be coming. All you got to do, jump in the Discord, track down the rookie guide channel, and man, 90 players, full write-ups, loads of stuff. I'll take your Dynasty League questions after this next pick. Happy to do that, as long as you smash the like button down below, of course. So what, we're in round 6 here, Tyler. 1 running back, 3 wide receivers, and a tight end. Anything in particular standing out to you? Chris Godwin kind of falling down a bit, obviously, with the additions that Tampa has made. I think that we might see a bit more of that at this point. I said I like Travion Henderson in the last round. He looks like he could end up coming back to us. Anybody else below that who kind of really screams value?
Yeah, one guy in particular has been going really high, really consistently. A name we'll keep an eye on. I haven't seen a lot of folks doing too much reach for some of these expensive rookies. Hunter goes around ADP, so potentially just gonna sit on that one, see if we can't get lucky in the 7th round. Considering some of these other targets are pretty nice, I'd be happy with either of Henderson or Godwin. Egbuka being added, not the best thing in the world, but I do think Egbuka falls more than Godwin or Henderson should, considering that just like they paid Godwin a lot of money and they mentioned that this is both for the future and for now. So Egbuka's upside is beat out McMillan and then start, clawing for snaps. I think we're both good with Godwin here, returning week 1 seemingly.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Chris Godwin, I mean, it's just hard to quit. Like, he was playing so good last year before he got injured. Dude, truly appreciate the love in the best ball streets tonight. You guys are the best. Best ball chat is always a good time. Like I say, look, go to perks on your YouTube channel, on your YouTube membership, on your YouTube profile, and you should be able to see the Discord link. If not, drop me a DM on Twitter and I will send you the link directly. And like I say, we got people in there helping each other with rookie drafts right now, with best ball takes early on in the off season, people starting up leagues. Really good engaged community and loads of stuff which will help you smash. So, Big Rice Ball, first time doing a rookie draft in a few days for a startup league. I have 106 and 112. Wondering if you guys recommend targeting best player available, going for team needs in early rounds. Big Rice Ball, I mean, honestly, we have a t-shirt in the merch store that says draft for talent, trade for need. And that's kind of the mantra which we always stick to around here, particularly if you're talking the difference between a tier and, like, if you remember, you can get access to Rich's rookie survival guide, which has got all his tiers. And it always just comes down to what's the best value. We've got so much time between now and the season to make trades. People get themselves worked up about that starting roster looking right, but we know it can very quickly change and very quickly become a different roster with trades, with injuries and stuff. So yeah, very much trying to just take the best player available, particularly if it means a tier break. Tyler, anything you'd add to that?
No, absolutely. I think the only way you get in trouble both in real life football and in fantasy football is focusing too much on missing needs, because at the end of the day, you can make a strength an extra strong strength that carries you through. And we all know the power of waivers. We all know the power of trades. A lot's going to happen. People are going to overreact. The market's going to overreact. Guys are going to get injured in camp, in the season. It's going to open up spots for you to be aggressive in waivers, be aggressive in trades, draft talented guys and watch them far outpace value, and then use those other guys as, trading chips, especially because at that point you'll know your league very well and you'll know who to dangle, what spots to target, all that good stuff. You only paint yourself in a corner if you draft for need and that guy's not as talented. You risk losing value, and in dynasty you're just trying to amass value and then use that wisely. So definitely agree there with that mantra. It serves you better over the long term than it doesn't.
Yes. This is a retro comment. Love that, Robert. Make sure if you don't get that, you just have to go find that one. But yes, right. So we are back on the clock. Najee starting to fall down draft boards. It was a long, it wasn't a long time, but Najee was fantasy relevant to most of us. I like Luther Burden. I'd also be fine with Caleb Johnson. I feel like he's an okay pick. Probably not ahead of James Conner. Do you fancy a bit of team correlation on Trey McBride and James Conner, or do you want to go Luther Burden for the stack?
Let's grab the following James Conner. We get the team correlation, which at the end of the day, this is BBM, and one of the best things we can do is hammer home bets on teams and team correlations, especially without knowing the week 17, schedule, the season schedule, and at all. And then also, today everybody's logging in to draft all the exciting, fun rookies. We see RJ Harvey, who was the player I was hoping we would be able to get. He's been going as high as like the 50s. I've gotten him a couple times in the 90s, both in BBM and some of the smaller puppy and Schnauzer contests. Lots of target volume coming his way potentially, with the Denver running backs ranking, top 4 in the league in targets on the season. But those guys get pulled up at the expense of some of these other vets. We've already gotten Gibbs a pick past ADP. Godwin fell a full round. I think the guys that are very talented, that have very strong coach speak and have been very efficient and have really solid roles, those are guys safe to continually invest in. We just talked about kind of like dynasty-wise. I'm not going to try to be better than the market in every single pick. And the easiest thing I can do is say, hey, that's a talented player and a talented offense who's been a solid pick year over year outside of any sort of injury. I'm going to invest in those guys. And if they beat the injury or, rookie scare, and James Conner came out of the draft looking even better. There was a little bit of talk that, Arizona liked Scatterbo and maybe a couple of these other running backs, and they don't add those guys. Trey Benson saw almost no third down work and target, volume last year. So Connor's just setting up on paper as another solid bet that I would take in the 5th or 6th round yet again, just based on his efficiency on the ground, his usage in the air, and how efficient the offense was. And the offense kind of lagged behind in the passing game. So if you're going to give me Connor a whole round after, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah, as Jeff says, the best values in these drafts is veteran winners from the draft. Just going back to Big Rice Bowl quickly, who do you guys have ranked higher, Warren or Loveland? We've been Team Loveland pretty much throughout, very much just like the draft capital just absolutely solidified it very much in on him. So Luther Burden, take it.
I like Luther here as team stack. I guess that gives us coverage for Baker, unless Caleb went, and I might be tempted to go.
Okay, Caleb's gone.
Do you want to get Baker instead?
Let's get Baker. Yeah, that makes sense. Just circling back to the chat as well. You're going to be shocked at, but I think this is a great year for Zero RB. Like, man, it really is. Like, honestly,
9-4's burner.
Like, come on, we got so many rookie running backs. We've got all the veterans that are kind of. I tell you what, one of the teams that I was shocked did not take a running back was the Commanders. It just felt like they had to, and as the weekend wore on, I just found myself considering, like, how high would I be willing to push up Brian Robinson at this point? Like, obviously, Austin Eckler was. I don't think he was particularly a great fantasy asset, but he paid off his ADP. And where's he going at the minute, Tyler?
Eckler, I think, is coming up from like the 180s. So he's been a heavy target of mine, considering when he didn't miss time, he saw a few, red zone touches. Off and on. Pass game, they mentioned again for the backs, was one place where B-Rob kind of lacked. But yeah, these both seem like another target yet again, especially as, let's not forget, the Washington O-line wasn't the best thing in the world. It was better than we thought it could be last year.
Yeah.
but it seemingly added to and potentially improved this line that may in turn, improve the rushing attack. But yeah, just buying pieces of the offense that are potentially underpriced. Eckler's been a very strong, one of the few strong targets at running back after round 14, 15 right now.
Yeah, so in terms of this draft, like obviously we mentioned the team out of a 9 spot who was going a bit crazy. Took Joe Burrow after taking Jalen Hurts and Bo Nix, which isn't particularly what you want to see, but it's kind of settled down enough that this draft feels like it's staying where it is. Najee and Emeka at around ADP. Okay, fine. We're about to be back up. We've got the quarterback stack with Godwin. We've got our elite tight end, 2 running backs. This would be the area of the draft I referred to as the running back glory hole last year. Still not quite settled down, but Tyrone Tracy, Zach Charbonnet, there's plenty of guys that we liked last year. Ramondre obviously isn't as strong as consideration as he was last year. Where do you want to go with this one, Tyler? I'm quite open here.
I like all 3 of these guys. I think getting another running back, like I mentioned, we could, this is shaping up to be a solid 5 or 6 running back build. Swift, I think, too cheap. Another winner of the draft. It goes along with our Bears contingent. We didn't take Burden. We could take Swift here for the double tap in Chicago and see what comes back around to us.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, Swift, geez, like it just felt like everything that was being said was the Bears wanted to invest heavily in the running back position, and it just goes on and it goes on, and you're just thinking, well, maybe they're going to take one of these guys late, like a guy like DJ Giddens who fell, and we all loved him, and then it didn't happen, and then you just like, okay, and much same as the kind of Cowboys team. It's like, right, well, which dusty veteran am I going to have to draft this year because of it? And is there somebody out there like a J.K. Dobbins who could eat into the value of guys like DeAndre Swift or Javonte Williams enough to make it worthwhile, or are those just going to be backfields that we largely avoid?
Absolutely.
So just circling back to the chat, this is fine saying, how do you guys feel about Pacheco? I think he's going to be an early target for me. I was kind of in on him before the draft. I know we talked about him a little bit. I just felt like the hate was possibly going a little bit too far. And then the Chiefs didn't do anything that kind of feels massively strong. Like, I feels like they like Pacheco still. Are you kind of coming around at all, Tyler, or do you think it's just going to get too muddy with Hunt there, Elijah Mitchell, and obviously they added, was it Brashard Smith as a undrafted free agent as well, or was it late in round 7?
My honest take is it's not a guy I want to take. He may end up being like this price is not inhibitive. So inflammatory Tyler would tell you I'm not taking him. Seems like crap. Whatever. But measured take is the Kansas City O-line was addressed pretty well. The guys they added have all missed time or old or are not exactly workhorse types. And his price right now is not inhibitive. I will say that, they talked about Eli Mitchell as seemingly a Jet McKinnon type of player to work in, noting that the trainers felt confident they could potentially, do things to help Eli stay healthy. They add Brashard Smith. This team has made something out of nothing with nobody running backs. Guys like Nick Chubb and others are still on the market. So I still think he could get competition coming in the future, but as of now, he's probably fine.
Did you just click Rashad Bateman there, Tyler?
I did. Do you want to take Bateman as our RB5 or RB5 wide receiver 5?
Yes, why not? I think, again, you talk about winners coming out of the draft. The Ravens added virtually zero to their offense in terms of skill position players. I kind of expected them to take a running back behind Derrick Henry, who's 31 going into the last year of his contract, but maybe that's a sign that they believe in Keaton Mitchell and Rasheen Ali a little bit more than we've seen so far. But wide receiver, this just seems to be solidified. Bateman, Flowers, they're going to make it work with the 2 tight ends and Andrews and Likely. So Mark Andrews, somebody else that if his ADP doesn't rise, I'll end up with 15% easily, I would imagine. But that's, part of the course around here.
Yeah, this is a range where in my own personal ranks, I'm just adjusting with guys who have solidified near full-time roles versus part-time role players versus potential guys that could be phased out by the end of the year. And so Bateman stands out. He was a pretty strong target of both of ours in pre-draft process. We kind of expected the Ravens to do the wise thing, which is just keep building in the premium positions and address some of the holes on the defense. That's seemingly what they've done. We saw Bateman really thrive last year with his first healthy offseason. We saw him thrive even more if any of Andrews or Flowers missed time. So at this point, I'm taking him over guys like Marvin Mims, who are part-time role players with weird usage that have an ambiguous,
Yes.
wide receiver room, who just added another big body guy to fit in. Marvin's fine, but without any stacking considerations, I view him at the lower end of this tier. I think Kirk now becomes kind of like that worrisome type of player because he's mentioned his third down and slot. We know he's slot only, so he's definitely not seeing full-time usage. But now they add Noel and Higgins in the second and third round. So he's a guy that should be falling in ADP because at minimum, I do believe he's a guy that without injury run out is likely to be phased out by the end of the season where all the money is. So not a guy I want to be buying in the top 120 at all. And so Bateman just stands out as a very strong target.
So we're about to be back on the clock in the 11th round. Drake May up at quarterback, CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence. Feels like Trevor Lawrence is probably going to start getting pulled up a little bit because of the embarrassment of riches that the Jags have got now, but I'm not necessarily advocating for him here. Otherwise, there's Tyler Warren. We could take Jalen McMillan for a bit more of a buck stack if we want to go with the alternate one. Rashid Shaheed, somebody we've talked about at times. You've starred Zach Charbonnet twice in the last couple of rounds. Do you feel like the value here is too good to pass up?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about a guy that survived the draft really well and still has pretty good standalone role and very good contingent role in a team that has told us they want to run the ball, they want to
Yes.
control it. And pretty good news for Darnold and the whole offense that the guy they add is seemingly not a threat to push the quarterback, and really tank the offense. And if they do add someone that should, as a component, make the rushing attack more efficient from just a usage standpoint, from a ground and pound perspective. They've even mentioned, and they've improved the tight end potentially. Fant getting Arroyo as a capable blocker and capable pass catcher. So everybody expects this offense to suck. What if it's average? And what if the pass game struggles but the run game is strong? We've kind of seen that several years. So Charbonnet dropping makes no sense, and this is what we're talking about. We are potentially, the whole point of these early drafts is to build a team you cannot build come August, September. And I certainly don't expect any of these vets to fall outside of injury news or some weird trade stuff. And, Charbonnet at this price presents almost no risk and a massive upside at contingent, especially as our RB4, considering we started with Gibbs and Connor. So at this point now, this feels like an embarrassment of riches and a running back room that we didn't try to build strong and we're getting ahead anyway. So it's kind of setting up well, like we talked about at the top, where we're going to just be able to target some really nice rookie and vet receivers late to fill this team out. And it's feeling very strong, much stronger than it should in April.
Yeah, I mean, we've scooped some nice value, definitely. And I'd be very much kind of okay at this point with 4 running backs through 11 rounds saying this feels like 5 running back build unless we end up leaving the running back position alone till very late. And obviously a big thing that we've got to adjust for is the round 18 drafts now instead of 20 round drafts like we were doing pre-draft. How have you found that? Like, you find yourself just really having to make some tough decisions towards the end of drafts?
It felt tough and not fun the first two because you're like, I'm used to having 2 safety nets where I don't have to make very tough choices. But I lean on previous years of construction where on underdog, half point PPR, and then drafters full season, quarterbacks are the most important from a scoring, point of view. Running backs dry up very quickly, and the position I'm always fine punting is tight end. I need the least from it, and I'm being very comfortable with like 2 mid tight ends that are probably poorly priced, attached to decent, offenses with good upside, and just letting go with God at that position. We kind of set ourselves up that nicely with Trey McBride. One of the nice things I like about a late tight end is it allows you not to load up the position in favor of other positions on the board. We are looking at these guys. Let me scroll down real quickly. How do we feel about Jack Besh, second round receiver in attached to Las Vegas with inside outside versatility?
Do we want to take him now, or do we want to push him and maybe take Isaiah Likely for a little more Ravens correlation and be done at tight end?
I'm okay with that.
Cool. I feel like the wide receiver tier, there's possibly enough that we could find some, we could even look at Xavier Legette as a second Carolina wide receiver if Jack Besh went. But in terms of Jack Besh, yeah, definitely. I think that he's an interesting player. I think that he can definitely work well within that system and work nicely with Geno. So definitely somebody to keep an eye on and maybe see if he makes it back to us. This is fine asking, is there going to be a second draft on stream? Tyler, I'm going to have to leave that one up to you because I'm in the middle of a house move and also try to deal with a huge amount of rookie content that we're pumping out over the next couple of weeks. But Tyler, is there a possibility that you'll be getting into another draft after this one?
Certainly possible. There's a bit of a time crunch, so if we can get in one of these 20, if this can speed up just a tad, and we can get into a 20-second draft that rips real fast. So if all of y'all agree to jump into a 20-second draft with me and rip it and stick it, we can make a second draft work.
So there you go. It's out there. Hit the like button. Do what you've been told to do, and maybe there'll be a second one. Fries No Shake, how are you handling not being able to do proper best ball contests with no DraftKings, leaving the scene for us UK folks? Drafts just isn't hitting the same. Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I mean, like, I like drafters, but it's not quite the same as DraftKings. I prefer the tournament structure. I will be doing a lot more FFPC Superflex drafts this year because I think that's a fun tournament. The price range at $35 a draft compared with like $3, $5, $10 a draft is frustrating. Like, my big thing that I've fallen in love with best ball over the last couple of years is building out a portfolio. And I would guess that as the summer goes on, it pisses me off more and more, but what are you going to do? I would say the best ball in Europe guys have been doing the very best to put together some tournaments and try and build some prize pots. If you don't know who they are, just take a look at my Twitter feed. I retweeted something not very long ago from them for a tournament that they're hosting. We'll be back on the clock in a minute. But yeah, check out Best Ball Europe on Twitter if you are looking for your best ball fix. Tyler, pretty much everyone has nearly almost made it back to us. How confident are you in Quentin Johnson? Like last year, there was a lot of touchdowns that contributed to him.
91 targets feels good. They do add Trey Harris in the third round, so I'm not sure how that's exactly going to shake out, especially in 2 or 3 wide receiver sets, including Hampton. There's a concern for me. They go a little bit more 2 receiver sets. Quentin could be on the outside looking in, potentially Trey Harris wise. It's just a guy that's been falling, so I'd rather take the riser here in the room and see who falls back around to us.
Yep, that works for me.
Yeah. Both these guys are falling, so I'm cool saying maybe we can get everybody.
Yeah. The Taysom Hill situation on FFPC is always pretty laughable. Just why. But look, I mean, if you were drafting Taysom Hill on FFPC in tight end premium, he wasn't really going to help you a lot anyway because he's not exactly a volume monster tight end. But yes, they did bring back Mike Williams. It's a good point that he's kind of not really been talked about very much.
Yeah, I mean, he was old coming off an ACL. Faded him last year. He's fine. I really do think they know and realize that over the course of a full season, you'd like to have depth. Guys with familiarity are always going to be desired by coaching staffs. I would be shocked if Mike Williams entered the season as anything more than wide receiver 4 depth chart wise. His whole big body thing has now been replicated with Trey Harris, who is also faster, younger, and potentially better. But he's depth. I think you see what Michael Williams was signed for. You see what these vets are. They're camp bodies and they are depth until proven otherwise. In my humble opinion, I do think in a perfect world, QJ retains his same role as the guy that benefits from broken coverage. Trey Harris should help with that. So I do think QJ in this range is still a worthwhile pick simply because we saw the upside of this offense is like top 6 pass rate over expected type of team with a talented quarterback and a talented offensive line. They just now added 2 weapons in Hampton and Harris So at the end of the day, this team has every reason to rip it, because now they have a very explosive pass catching back in Hampton, and QJ benefits from that just being attached to a very high scoring, high pass rate offense. And we don't know how every week is going to shake out. We see that with a lot of these types of teams. So if QJ is just a more talented, Andre Yoshivas in this system, as we saw, with Palmer, doing the deep stuff earlier and Ladd being the target hog, that's a good thing. Jack Best just provides, I think, higher upside. We don't have to worry about how he's losing. We worry about how high he's going to rise with getting good camp speed, getting good draft capital, and being attached to a potentially high pace offense with Chip Kelly.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts goes off the clock, another veteran winner. Like Falcons did absolutely nothing at tight end. Perhaps it won't really matter for him. Perhaps he is just completely cooked. But felt like they could have been looking to do something. We're a couple of picks away. Obviously, we could take that Geno pick to kind of build out the quarterback room a little bit more. We are drying up a little bit there, but yeah, I mean, it's nothing too desirable. Would you? Well, let's put ourselves in Mike McDonald's perspective. Would you prefer Geno here, or would you prefer Sam Darnold for the checkdowns to Zach Charbonnet?
I think we invested more from the standpoint of Vegas taking Besh here, frankly.
Yep.
If it also, like, there still is a smidge of risk that Darnold gets, benched late in the season
Yeah.
just because of the way the contract is structured. I think that bench risk has gone down considerably. But Seattle could ultimately decide to just see what the young guys have, if this kind of does implode as an offense. And at that point, they've invested everything. And extending Geno and then taking Genty, this is a team that wants to win right now. So, as far as the bench risk is concerned, and then also if Besh hits, it's very likely that Geno is doing very well, considering that his second or third weapon is, doing very well with Bowers, with Myers, with Genty. There's a lot to like about this offense, especially. I'm just trying to buy the Raiders right now because I'd like to assume that they're going to be a high pass rate or high pace offense. They might not be that for the full season, but for the right stretches late in season, it could be extremely exciting. And Besh seemed like ironically, Besh was the Puka Nacua to take in early drafts just because of his size, his ability to, really perform with elite talents like Neighbors and BTJ on the field, and his versatility, being able to work outside, not just inside. So we'll see if he's very good. Maybe he's just good leverage on round two Bowers, who we did not take on this team.
Yeah, definitely. I'm always big fan of leverage talk. We've got a few veterans going off the board in this kind of range. Round 12, Keenan Allen. Round 14, J.K. Dobbins. Lots of guys that there's a wide range of outcomes for sure. I mean, like if J.K. Dobbins didn't play another down this year, you could see that Jerome Ford, who you're highlighting on screen, went from being okay, quite usable still when the Browns drafted their first running back, and then when they drafted their second one, all of a sudden it starts feeling really grim. We are a few picks away. Obviously, we've got the two quarterbacks, we've got the two tight ends. I feel like we've probably done it tight end, but we said this felt like probably a 5RB build. What are you thinking that we need to find to round this team out, Tyler?
Yeah, I definitely think the running back we set up well to push to ensure that we have a quarterback room we feel really good with. Five feels strong with Gibbs, Connor, Swift, and Charbonnet, all after ADP, structurally and just talent wise. If we build a team where we feel like a six makes sense, but I think with the way we've built the receiver room, I'd like to attack that with a little bit more, quantity for us. I don't feel the need to take another tight end if we need to. If McBride's going to pay off a second round price, then taking a third is really just wasteful outside of a bye week coverage of projected 7 points. We should be able to lap that. Elsewhere, let's see. We could take our fifth running back and be done here, or we could dip down into some of the guys likely to rise. We mentioned Tolbert.
Jalen Royals.
Are you into Royals?
I don't mind Jalen Royals. I mean, I'm happy to pass him up for Tolbert if you're there,
I think
or
Wicks or
even El
Tolbert.
Kaimer.
I think Wicks or Tolbert make a lot of sense here.
Well, let's scoop a bit of value on. I'd lean slightly to Tolbert because he can catch the
Um,
ball, but we'll just take Dontavian Wicks.
well, drops are not sticky, Tom, and Wick still saw like 90 something targets. I don't think he needs to fall. I think he and Dobbs were not going high enough considering Watson was going to be injured and out for a majority of the season with the late ACL tear. Adding Golden is, preventing them from full ceiling, but this is still a guy with analytical holes in his profile. He's still filling mostly the speed element, and this is still a team that schemes guys targets based on matchup against teams. So, to really make Wicks and Dobbs nothing, Golden has to like be a target monster, which has not really been his MO at all. And the offense talked about wanting to be more consistent down to down. Really, that just comes down to guys catching the ball, which Wicks and a lot of the other offense did not do very well. But I think taking a piece of a offense that did score a lot last year is a good thing. And if his drops become less bad, like his predecessor Devontae Adams, or like some other guys we know, hell, QJ learned how to catch a little bit better and then had a nice run out. He's not my favorite click by any means, but anytime you can get a guy that's earned more than 90 targets is not nothing, especially when the staff does like him and
Yeah.
not completely blocked from mattering at all. And I also think we might be able to double dip here with how the board is going.
Yeah, I'm kind of fine with it. I mean, it's not a massive difference between Tolbert and Wicks for me, but we talked about it at the top with what the Cowboys did around CD Lamb. It felt like Jalen Tolbert is a perceived value who I think is going to climb up draft boards a little bit over time, whereas Dontavian Wicks, I think, is going to get stuck in this area for a while because so many people got burned by him last year, buying into the coach speak that they thought he was like Devontae Adams. And look, like I like Dontavian Wicks. I think there is definitely upside, and I think his upside is bigger than Jalen Tolbert's on any given week. So it's kind of, it's an argument which you can make either way, and I'm fine with where the correct move ends up being taking somebody like Amari Cooper or Alec Ayamana in that range instead. Will be interesting to see. One guy who I didn't really want to click in that range was Rashad White, who we had a little bit of hope for a few weeks ago, Tyler, but now it just sounds like the Bucks really don't particularly like him. Would you have made an argument for him?
And where? Oh, so I'm not privy to this. Where was this coming out that they don't particularly like him? Because last
There
time I
was some,
checked, they didn't address that in the draft, and
yeah,
I'm
there was
worried. Go
there was
ahead.
some talk that he was available for trade last week.
We heard that about like 17 guys, and none of them got moved. So I don't know how much of any of that to buy. Especially for the
Hmm.
like if a team didn't trade Kyle Pitts, I don't know that. I don't know how much of that was real outside of just making sure they get their guy. And
Do you
it
want
is
to
what it
take us? Do you want to take a swing on a rookie running back here and Ollie Gordon, Brashad Smith, or do you want to go with like Braylon Allen and maybe Brees Hall gets traded or somebody else?
I think we can get our fifth running back here. I think there's other guys. I mean, you mentioned Royals. We could go Royals. We could go Tolbert. I think
Uh,
we can. We still have
let's go
time.
running back.
Okay, let's go Braylon and be done, and we'll see what comes back around to us. I think
Hey,
Braylon, he's fine. He's so unexciting. He had a bad season. He wasn't particularly good. He certainly wasn't particularly better than Isaiah Davis, but they end up not adding anybody else. The offensive line does get a huge addition in Mimbo. Justin Fields will make the rushing attack more efficient just from being a rushing quarterback. Um, but yeah, he's not a fun contingent. Feel like, especially being a holdover from a different staff, I do believe that they're going to have a true competition. I liked what Isaiah Davis did and provided. So buying him here is probably just like, if he's the confirmed RB2, he rises at least into the 140s. We saw that last year. But
yeah,
if he's not, he drops to an undrafted type of guy. So he's definitely not. And Marshawn Lynch going above us. That's a target. Great guy. I think he's
we were all over that.
yeah, all over that. He comes out unscathed. Really nice coach be coming in to the early draft season. He currently didn't have an ADP when I set my ranks. So definitely a guy to load up on here now.
You want
As
you
your
want to talk about a guy with no ADP? Bit of breaking news for you, Tyler. John Schultz reporting that former Panthers wide receiver Deontay Johnson visited the Browns today. Like, there's 18th round freebie.
If there's any, the Browns are giving everybody and anybody a shot.
Was
They're
Elijah Moore? Where was Elijah Moore today? Oh, he was visiting the Bills, wasn't he?
the
Yeah.
Bills, yeah, the Bills that are building the entire plan out of slot receivers.
I mean, look, you just dominate the slot.
Dominate the slot. That's the modern NFL.
Right, we've got what, 2 more picks to go. Obviously, we could take a third quarterback with Baker and Geno. It feels possibly worth taking the third quarterback at this point when we don't know the schedule. I'd be okay with Jackson Dart. Obviously, Jalen Milroe would be a good hedge against Sam Darnold, but I don't know. I think the fact that he fell almost out of the top 100 picks is quite La Raville Magnifico. Daniel Jones feels just as likely to start at the back end of the season. We talked about him on our last Best Ball stream. You definitely got quite out there with that take, and I'm fully on board with it now. So it's either Jackson Dart or Jalen Royals. And for me, I think I would rather have the third quarterback in Jackson Dart. And I think that Jackson Dart is going to start plenty of games this year.
Yeah, I mean, first round quarterbacks historically fare very well. The fact he comes into an offense with, ready to go Malik Neighbors, Wandale is more than sufficient. The running backs are fine. And I mean, his upside is Jaden Daniels esque. His rushing ability, which was mentioned unsolicited, we knew that was going to be awesome. What are you going to do? Running on empty after a long weekend in Lafayette. Yeah, so I mean, like Dart was a heavy favorite of mine. As just like even if he and Sanders both went in the first round, I was going to have double Dart than I was going to be Sanders in the early drafts because the rushing ability and the passing ability. If you can rush for 50 yards or more in a game and you're hitting these deep touchdown passes, that's the type of Josh Allen, Daniels, Justin Fields type of thing that we've seen be worth a top 6 ranked quarterback, and that's very powerful in these drafts.
And this coaching staff have got experience with dual threat quarterbacks as well. Like, this coaching staff might not have been what we've wanted them to be at times, but they have tended to lean towards those guys who do have a bit of ability. Obviously, Daniel Jones, like his ability to actually use it and deploy it at the right time is where the question marks come in. But Daniel Jones, Josh Allen, they will be able to scheme some good stuff for Jackson Dart, and I think that down the stretch is worth chasing for sure. We got 1 round left. Tyler, back to the wide receiver well on this one.
Yeah, I think 3, 5, 7, 2. It's we look at the RB room, we look at the wide receiver room. I feel good about the guys we've selected, but I definitely think another Dart here at receiver makes a lot of sense. And I've got some names.
I mean, there's a name I want to say. Look, you might not like it, but has Darius Slayton gone already?
Yeah, he went the Tolbert drafted double dipped with Slayton, and I'm into Slayton. Especially with my Dart teams. He got signed enough that he should be locked into the wide receiver 2 role in this offense when they go 2 receivers and obviously 3 receivers when Wandale's on the field. So as such, I expect his price to rise. These guys that are likely are wide receiver 3s, wide receiver 2s, and offenses that could be heavy pass volume. I expect them to rise in the next couple rounds. And they've already been getting more expensive as the day's gone on.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Obviously, we're about to come back on for our last pick, and then we'll recap this team. But look, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. We've got Rich's rookie rankings will be up on a video over the next couple of days. We're going to have a Friday special show where Tyler, myself, and Rich talk all things NFL draft fallout for both Best Ball Dynasty, answer your questions, talk about takes that we feel convictions on. We're going to be doing some pick'em shows over the next few weeks at points once I get working internet in my new house. We're also going to be in the Best Ball streets each and every week, not just here on Underdog, but also on Drafters, also on FFPC, and also I'll be streaming some drafts with the guys from Best Ball Europe on Sleeper, trying to help those guys get going because, look, we need Best Ball in Europe. Tyler, last pick, Andre Yoshevich, Troy Franklin, Trey Tucker, DeMarcus Robinson, and Devon Vile. Yoshi or Tucker? That's kind of where I land.
Yeah, Yoshi's the upside hit in offense, pairs with T, and Tucker pairs with Geno. I have no strong leans here.
Let's go Trey Tucker because I kind of feel like, if Gino's hitting, he needs to be hitting with like a 3-4 touchdown day, and maybe that swings things slightly better in Tucker's favor. Could you wax lyrical and recap the team for us, please?
I love the wax off for the
Our
people.
first BBM team of the year.
BBM number 1 for the Fantasy Sanctuary, BBM number 2 for the Emo Cowboy portfolio, 3582, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, Jackson Dart, the guy you're going to need week 17 at quarterback, Jahmyr Gibbs, James Conner, DeAndre Swift, Zach Charbonnet, Braylon Allen, solid 5 running back room. Probably not going to be able to get those guys with that injury at ADPs. We got him. Tet, Rome, Chris Godwin, Rashad Bateman, Jack Besh, Dontavian Wicks, and Trey Tucker for our throw shit at the wall, make it work receiver room, and Trey McBride, Isaiah Likely as our lone tight ends for touchdown and pass upside. As far as the types of offenses we attacked, the types of roles we attacked, and the textures, I got to say, I'm feeling pretty good about waxing poetic about this team. I feel really solid about this. And I think it has really solid chance to age well with CLV as the summer goes on.
Yeah, I like it. I think that, you can look and say maybe it doesn't have the true superstar wide receiver that we could have got ahead of T. Higgins, but we got Trey McBride and Jahmyr Gibbs there. And that's a combination which we might not end up on loads, but I do like it. I think that they could both finish as the top player at their respective positions. We probably don't have a wide receiver who could do that, but again, don't particularly care about that. And then at quarterback, we've got some of the guys who are going to be like, QB5 to QB12 range. But again, that scoring is much more replaceable than elsewhere. And I think what we've done is just build a very nice team. So, yeah, I'm down with it. Tyler, are you sticking around to draft in something else with good people, or are you too late in the day?
Yeah, folks, let's rip a 20-second puppy and get this rocking and rolling super duper fast.
Right. Well, I'm going to bounce out, Lacey. Big week, got to move house. It's absolute hell on earth around here, along with Rich's Rookie Guide version 2.0 will be out, we reckon, by Wednesday lunchtime over here, which would be Wednesday morning. So make sure you are a member. If you're not in the Discord already, drop me a DM on Twitter and I'll send you that link directly. Make sure you do read it because it is going to be very helpful for you over the coming weeks. Tyler, always a pleasure, my man. We will be back very soon together. But till then, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Have a good one, Tom. Thanks for joining us, everybody, for our first Sanctuary BBM, and we're hopping into a 20-second fast puppy. If you want to draft with us, let's get this puppy rocking and rolling. Waiting on 3. Let's chase some mother effing superstars. Naming teams. All right. Oh, first draft for this is fine. Very nice. Have a good one, Eddie. Thanks for popping in. How's it going, Star? What's up, Travioli? I've got that balls day. Poor guy's working his nuts off as he's grinding real job, fantasy jobs, stream jobs, hand jobs, allegedly. I'm just kidding. Can we call it a hand job if you're hand building teams? Waiting for 2 if you want to join us in the 20-second fast puppy. Hoping everybody joining us can help us draft very, very quickly so that I can make my buddy's birthday sushi dinner appointment on time. We got waiting for 2. I'm shocked these aren't filling faster. They were filling very quick and the stamina has worn off. Or maybe, just maybe, people are coming home from work. Also breaking news, Robert Woods signing a 1-year, $2 million deal with the Steelers. It's over for Roman Wilson. We get our first puppy for me, and then we get the 12 spot. I'm going to move this over here. Travioli jumps in. This is fine jumping in. Dildo Schwagon 69 in the 4-hole. Very nice. Best ball burger. Strapped to be a Texans fan. Renegades. Nice. This is just like full brand. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. What's up, Steph? Steph drafting some god awful teams that she hates. Those are probably going to be the good ones you like. Yeah, I still think the last pick we made with Tucker to stack with Gino just now on our BBM, I think that's still a solid pick considering Trey Tucker's been the wide receiver 3 and had nice spike weeks. His whole thing is deep, explosive plays. He gets a few like sweep toss things. I still think he's very viable, especially on Raiders builds. You are too slow. Well, Robert, yeah, can he take second? Can he take first and I can take second? All right, let's rip them and stick them. I mean, like the first 3 rounds should be very, very fast. I don't understand how we don't have these. I hope that BBM also doesn't get thrown out after Bo Nix went in the second round. Noah Fant went in the third round. I would not be surprised if it's tossed considering those 2 early reaches for potential collusion. Ah, dude, I have had a David's protein bar. Also macros, very low calories, very solid. And watermelon. That's all I've had today. Preparing for this sushi, considering I ate my body weight in quesadillas, crawfish pies, po' boys, alligator sausage, boudin, fried boudin balls, etc. Welcome into the stream, James. I mean, Dildo Schwaggins is top tier, gimmick name for sure. Yeah, the 20-second clocks can be a little tough on mobile. By the time they come back around, you might be missing 3 seconds. So I would tend, if you're in between picks, just remember to kind of like play with the queue, and give yourself that extra 3-second delay. How's everybody's weekend? What we got going on? But yeah, Brian Thomas, Amon Ra. Yes. I'm not even going to think about it. Boop. Mic stand in the way of my second monitor. BTJ and Amon Ra, I'm not going to be mad about. I mean, my God, we're talking about just alpha level. I don't think Brian Thomas needs to fall very much with the addition of Travis Hunter. The offense should flow through both of those guys. They're by far the 2 most talented dudes, and they're both very explosive and have a lot of yak ability. And I don't think that they necessarily cap either of their upsides because, if anything, BTJ can do even more of the downfield stuff in this offense. Robert Griffin III saying the only reason I fire BBM is for the slim chance of Norris reading my handle. I mean, I only fired the BBM for the slight chance of retiring from my job permanently, but the handle, I mean, if you got a good one like you do, absolutely why you got to do it. Yeah, I'm about to tear that sushi up. Yeah, I mean, it's just I haven't been to Lafayette in a long, long time, and it was really good to get back and eat some of that. Like, just the boudin is so unique and so much better in Lafayette than anywhere else. Obviously, went to a homemade biscuit place that had like these massive biscuits with jalapeno jelly, fried chicken, and that was also delicious. Talking about food before I get dressed and ready to go out to sushi. That is optimal, obviously. So who are we buying at any price, no matter what? I think I would not be surprised if here at the 3-4 turn is where Hunter ends up staying a long time. Harvey probably right around or above Walker at the end of the day. Probably makes a lot of sense. Second round guy with just a lot of target upside. Peyton is weird, and that's like my one hesitation, but obviously. And then, yeah, I remember, dude, the jalapeno jelly was delicious. Laporta, yeah. So explain to me the Laporta love. You just dropped in and said Rizzy P and Laporta. Rizzy P, first round draft capital. Brandon Ayuk returning from ACL, MCL. San Francisco passing deep much more often. That all makes sense. Give me the Laporta dish. I mean, I think he's fine. I think Hawkinson at ADP is better in the 8th, 9th round, and I would probably still take him over Laporta, given the target earning potential. What's up, Colin? Hot best ball summer is upon us, and it is good. And I've already drafted a team on the treadmill and sweat, and I've drafted a team outside and sweat. So hot best ball summer is off to a ripping, sweaty start here in the Emo Cowboy household. Anytime you get the McCarthy, Henry, Chuba, Puka, nice. I think you just got to buy all the Browns, right? Like Flacco's going to start a lot. They took a bunch of like 4th and 5th round quarterbacks, and Kenny Pickett sucks. Is Flacco starting the entire season? Like, holy shit. Nothing too crazy happening here. DJ Moore has been falling a little bit. I'm assuming because of the Burden news, some of the shade thrown by Ben Johnson. Still think he's a very solid to find round 3. Mike Evans not dropping, and we're on the clock. Rashi feels like an automatic have to, and then we will happily click Chase Brown here. Our worries about splitting the backfield likely not going to happen. I mean, P. Ryan could be a little annoying in the pass game. I could definitely see that. I don't want to ignore the fact that coaching staff did talk about, kind of supplanting his volume. But they would have to like put a player much worse than Chase Brown on the field in order to do so. And so I think Brown is a very solid to great target in the 3rd round, and probably, up into the 2nd round. I don't know that I'd take him over Bucky or Achane or Taylor just for like the talent profiles that those guys have and showed, the workhorse abilities they were able to have in the NFL early on, and the offenses they're attached to. But Chase Brown, solid target here. Very happy to get him here in the puppy. Bold, vague player takes are often employed as substitutes for actionable ball knowledge. Tyler, what are we talking about? Are we throwing shade at my ball knowledge? I think. Explain yourself before I get into that, because I have a response. Sam Laporta is the cheapest of the elite tight ends, and he's the direct leverage off of all those teams who burned 2nd and 3rd round picks. Yeah, I mean, it's not the only direct leverage. I think Njoku that goes in rounds 10 and 11 right now with potentially a lot of Joe Flacco is a very solid guy. I think him dropping because of Harold Fannin is incorrect and wrong. We know Njoku's a very talented, yards after the catch guy and deep seam guy. So I'd be really shocked if Fannin took routes away from him. Oh, okay. I got you. Mimics the year of Windmill Andrews in a similar landscape, 3x the finals. I mean, you're not wrong in that, like, whatever tight end smashes in the mid to late rounds is like the biggest leverage piece. We're not going to know that till the season is over. I think Hawkinson and Laporta are both fine targets for that. Laporta's offense, obviously, you've got less question marks about the quarterback, right? Like Goff and this offense, like, still churning and kicking away. Good. McCarthy, unproven, yada yada. But if that offense could smash the way it did with Darnold, McCarthy just has to be like reliable, like Kirk Cousins was, and Kirk Cousins was always pretty good to not elite. So I think that's very much in the realm of possibility. But I think the tight end landscape this year allows for a lot of those types of leverage plays. You've got Kelsey, who's nothing fun, but probably still penciled in for like 100 targets if he runs pure on touchdowns at any point. He's massive. Andrews at this ADP, if he just comes back healthier, still has a solid red zone role. His targets dipped, his efficiency dipped, but the touchdowns were still there. His touchdowns obviously not sticky, but his role in that offense still more valuable than likely because of the blocking and the play action stuff. No, you good, brother. But yeah, no. So I think the tight ends allow a lot of that. Loveland now with the Bears could be this year's, Kincaid / Laporta as the rookies that really outpace their ADP because of their their landing spots. Dude, loving anytime I can get players I love, or who also really really good smashes that allow me to also not take an elite quarterback. Because I just think there's like massive leverage to be had, um, for taking some of the mid range guys, especially with guys like Dart available. Oh, what an unfun range of the draft. I think I have Kamara ranked above all of these running backs right now as it is. I could double dip. I don't feel the absolute need to do so. Laporta could give me the Detroit double stack, which is not a bad thing. Let's do the Detroit double stack in honor of Star Kindler giving us his Laporta alpha. Happy to take him and just, flush out our bet for Detroit. Nothing really stood out to me. Ridley for a Cam Ward is fine. Debo's been falling to 72, 75 this morning, I've noticed. So, no need to go there. Connor and these running backs have been kind of falling a little bit. And we'll see if we can't get. I'm trying to just slam as much CLV and value as I can, and that includes guys that are going to rise or don't rise fast enough. And I don't want to pull them up unnecessarily if I don't have to in these rooms. But y'all are in them, so you're going to soak up all the EV, and I'm going to be left with the dregs at the 12 turn. Well, this is why we do it. So we do it, Ian. I've gotten Harvey in like the 90s a couple times today. That felt really good. Getting Swift in the 90s to hundreds feels good, relatively speaking, of course. And then Higgins in the 100s, but I don't want to get too cute because the way I build a super team is just like getting guys I'm not going to be able to get all together, and that's just like these falling vets. So I don't want to do too much pulling up if I don't have to, for fun, unique combos. But y'all are in this room, so again, I really do expect y'all to soak up a lot of that EV, and that's fine. I'm having to dock the Saints guys just because, like, God, what the hope is that Derek Carr's shoulder is not completely fucked. And he's already being weird about it. He went to like his local church and gave like an unsolicited speech about working with the doctors of the Saints. That was odd. Tyler Shucks sucks. That offensive line still has concerns. They addressed it decently well, but I mean, we know it's Harvey going at 71, nice. Yeah, I think Harvey probably belongs above Walker and Chuba. What do y'all think about that? I think that's fair and fine because I do think Rico and ETN show that like Chuba, they're not necessarily going to like use Chuba as a workhorse necessarily. And yeah, so I think like the only out where I would be back in on the New Orleans guys at ADP willingly is like a Kirk Cousins trade. And last time I checked, their cap situation's still kind of rough. So I don't know. It's feels pretty bad outside of like Kamara just getting a billion touches again, and volume is easy to load up on, especially if the offensive line is better. Kellen Moore does a pretty good job of scheming the running backs, and as bad as Tyler Shuck or Rattler is, they can still throw balls to Kamara. So, and like Devin Neal is not nothing, but he's definitely not necessarily like the coach speak on Kamara was strong. His usage is strong. He could get there on volume, and also he's just not going to be a guy that's likely on a bunch of start drafters teams. And I want to make sure to differentiate myself with guys I don't have super strong takes on, and teams just end up running dudes into the bricks. I am drafting him as if he's like 80% plus to start week 1. So I've been taking him pretty high, including on drafters. So I have him ranked over like Judy or right around Judy right now personally, because of the really good health news we got from the fantasy docs. We're gonna get our quarterback in Goff. He's likely not coming back to us. That's that much I have found lately. We have him double stacked. I'm pretty ambivalent here. Ambivalent's the wrong word. Indifferent was the word I wanted to use. I think Pollard and Spears, another big winners of the draft, considering the O-line got really strong and no real addition to the running back room was made that should push either guy. So I'm drafting both of them at or above ADP when I can. Colin talking about shitty QBs and offense that can produce fantasy players. Bowers took a hit when Desmond Ridder came in, but he produced just fine with Aiden O'Connell and Minshew. So there is a line of, I mean, Browns, same thing. Browns were fine with, fine to passable for one or two weapons with guys like Flacco and, oh God, totally blanking. But they were god awful for like with Watson and DTR, for instance. PJ Walker, fine, right? So like there is a line where the QB Rattler in the New Orleans offense. I mean, granted, the offensive line was atrocious, but like almost no player had any sort of ceiling because they were dogs to score 10 points and a single touchdown, and the offense was just atrocious. So like there is a line where like the offense is so bad that like no one's viable. That happened with the Saints 2 separate times. Winston's not there to bail out the quarterback. Rattler's bad. He'd have to like really improve, and Shuck has been injured to bad. So I think there's, yeah, I mean, just I'm talking like from a draft capital perspective and prospect perspective. I like compliment, sure, but I don't think that late of a running back necessarily pushes either guy as far as ADP is concerned, considering how good and how explosive both those guys have been, especially how much Pollard's been paid and how much the staff likes him. And seemingly their only issue with either guy is health. So that's what I'm just saying. Like they're both solid targets. And like Tony should probably be going here-ish, right? Probably above Caleb, probably above Judkins. The reason why I'm into Ford still is like Judkins not necessarily a target share guy, and the Stefanski offense has almost always had 2 split roles. I mean, he had Chubb for 3 years and still split roles with Kareem Hunt, taking anywhere from 30 to 50% of the snaps for pass downs, including the red zone. So I think I'm buying the Ford knife, quote unquote, right now because like he still serves the pass protection role, the pass catching role. And if Flacco was starting, there's going to be just a shit ton of play volume and check downs to the running backs. So I don't think necessarily that the Dylan Sampson pick in like what round 5 necessarily eliminates Ford in the passing role. And I don't believe that Khalil Mullings takes away Pollard or Spears necessarily. I'm drafting right now. If you're around 4 down running back, I'm not necessarily worried about you taking away from a solid to good vet without, coach speak coming out of the draft or coach speak, or reports in training camp in the summer. Because I think a lot of these guys are going to like lose any sort of steam. And I think a lot of the late running backs, we see undrafted and late guys take other guys' jobs. Guys like Blake Watson were potentially taking away from and mixing in certain offenses. Last year with Denver and McLaughlin. So it's like I don't want to blanket say like winners, but pretty good for those guys. Blake Watson was a bad example. Like not every 5th round running back is going to be Tyrone Tracy necessarily. Tyrone Tracy came into a good spot where it's like that's a middling to bad vet who's fine, but if he misses any time, and obviously the explosive part that Tracy brings in the offense is good. And we also saw that with with Tommy DeVito. They were usable Tommy DeVito games, and they were like god awful Tommy DeVito games. But I think the head coach matters a lot. Kellen Moore, I have good faith in, but I'm not going to just say that for sure he solves everything. I don't know what to do with Travis Etienne. I just said I wasn't taking. We'll take Bateman again here. I'm not sure what I want to do here. We're at a 1-3-4-1 build. I probably don't need to take another running back, but like the receivers in this range aren't great. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull up second round Jaden Higgins. I think his upside's a little bit tapped with Nico and then Noel. I think Higgins was better suited to kind of like come in and out of the slot. Maybe he does that, but I think it's kind of blocked with Noel and Kirk both there. But he might not have to be efficient if he's just counted on as a big body. I think in this build, it's worthwhile to take the shot. It's not going to block me. And if Nico does miss any time, he could step in to be the wide receiver one in that offense, given his size and speed. Pretty shitty range. I hate this range of the draft right now. It's very not fun. I have Tet McMillan. I don't know why my ranks aren't showing. I guess I can just pull them up. I have Tet, I believe, above. Yeah, I have him here above Devontae Smith and JMO because I think his upside as an 8th overall receiver and a second receiver off the board to a spot where Thielen could easily be moved mid-season. It's the last year of his contract. We've seen guys like that get moved, especially at his age, especially at his pay. Someone that wasn't even sure he was going to return to the team this offseason. I think Tet's full upside is perimeter and power slot, and like BTJ just be used everywhere on the offense. And there's no one in that offense that's like locked and loaded into their role. And his upside is like massive, given his size and his ability and his production and his yak. And yeah, I think it's just a clear delineation that like potential wide receiver one on his offense and rookie coming into a huge role down the stretch. I have him ranked pretty aggressively because I expect him to rise and end up there at some point for sure. Guys that could get like really easy training camp buzz and news. Zeus asking, would Najee have more appeal to you in a cumulative scoring format, not worrying about Hampton late season takeover? I mean, not really, because like cumulative season scoring every week matters as much as the last week, but that also means like the back half is worth just as much as the front half. The front half's not worth more. I think Najee's price is bad, and any guy's price that's bad, I don't love, regardless of format. I get what you're saying. I think the problem is that like this is a backfield that just used 2 guys last year, and both had usable weeks, but the prices of those guys, J.K. Dobbins got what as expensive as like the 140s, 130s max. Gus Edwards, 100 to 130. If memory serves correct, right now you've got Najee and Hampton both being top 75 priced players. Najee falling in kind of the 80s right now. So I think Najee's price is pretty prohibitive if he does lose backfield touches. He wasn't even a good pick last year, getting most of the backfield to himself with Warren missing like what 6 to 7 weeks as a 70 to 85 ADP player. So I his contingent upside is there, but this is an offense that has used 2 guys, and Najee getting a first round running back in his backfield to split. I wouldn't be chasing him as a cumulative season scorer inside the top 100 personally, mostly because of just how you have to score points over the full season and talent. I think I'm going to take Loveland here. Him falling doesn't make any sense at all. I'll be done at tight end. I don't love any of these players here. Stroud goes. No, we're going to take Lawrence, get our BTJ stack. We invested more in BTJ than we did with Houston. So we have a 2-3-5-2, pretty balanced. I think QJ, Dubs, Thielen, and those guys will come back around. So, and we invested enough in running back. So, sort of put a cap on the Najee point. I'd only really be taking him if it was like contingent value with standalone, like the guys in the this range. That's kind of what you're taking. Like he's essentially B-Rob and probably not as good of an offense. But he's not priced like that right now. So I wouldn't be taking cumulative because I think cumulative season, I want to chase the guys to be absolute league winners and produce huge weeks season long in their ceiling case and just extremely heavy late season and balance it out. What's up, Bindles? Yeah, back on the T-Mac. That's the thing. We saw this with Calvin Ridley. We've seen this with dude, Sky Moore. Sky Moore got slappy steamed into like the 90s and 80s. It's anybody that's good. Like it's draft capital. And also, like Thielen could honestly get moved in camp. Like if Tet is crushing and he's crushing inside and outside, they have no reason to keep Thielen around to block like their 8th overall picks progression. And then he starts the season as like the clear target guy. If they trade or cut, Thielen going into week 1, I mean, how high does Tet go, right? Like that's what I'm investing in. I don't like picking Najee any more than the next step, but these are the questions we got to ask. No. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's about price. It's about role and offense. If I'm taking anybody in the top, like 100, but like honestly, like the top 75, where he's got a price right now, he goes 83. If I like in this range, I want to like Tony Pollard's role is stronger. We've seen him get 80 to 85% of the work, if not 100% of the work in this offense. I like the Chargers offense more, but Najee now is capped at like what you're hoping that week 1 he gets 70 to 80% of the work with Hampton spelling. But how quickly does that work get taken away from him with how much more explosive Hampton is? They talked about in the post-draft presser about Hampton's pass catching, pass protection, and explosiveness. So like there's a risk that Najee's 50-50 back starting week 1, and you're hoping he's 85, 15 week 1. That's not a good bet in the 80s, in my humble opinion. In cumulative season, you need to hit the nuts, you need to hit the league winners. And I think Najee and those types are more prohibitive to finding those guys. Like Tony Pollard's upside is he's just like the main back all season long, and Spears gets his 4 touches a game, and Cam Ward is like Stroud-esque, and Tony Pollard is arbitrage Joe Mixon. Like that's Pollard's upside because of his contract, because of his workload. But even then, like guys like Mason, I think Mason is the same bet as Najee, but potentially a better offense and a better offensive line, but almost guaranteed goal line role, and his contingent upside is better because the guy he's backing up is a 32-year-old pass catcher and not a first-round running back. And also Mason was traded for an extended. So like those, if I can arbitrage you easily, I don't want to take you. Full season. Okay, so we get Dubs comes back around. I think we'll take him here as wide receiver 6, and then we have a choice to be made. I feel pretty comfy at quarterback. I'm going to take Rico here. He's been falling, but they traded for him. They talked about him really well. I am in the minority, I guess, that Trevor Etienne, a 4th-round running back, is not necessarily bad for the guy who did pretty well on rushing volume and was talked about rushing and pass game. So as far as running back 4, I like Algier a lot, but as far as like standalone weekly, if I have a 5 running back room, I prefer to have a guy who can randomly, get 12 to 15 touches and a touchdown or 2 without having to get all the work. And Algier is very much capped at like 6 to 8 touches a game and purely the best handcuff in football, likely. So very fine taking him there. Copy paste dates. What do you think about Rome given the Loveland and Burden picks? I still think he's fine. I could see more and he both dropping 5 to 10 picks, saying they're like, hey, these new weapons are coming in, new staff. I talked about it with Tom. This is our second draft. Our first draft, this is the puppy. We did a BBM earlier. We took Rome at like 55, I believe. I still like him. He wasn't like head and shoulders fantastic, but he was also part of a Shane Waldron offense. We've seen guys like JSN break out without Shane Waldron. Ben Johnson benefits everybody, including Rome. Ben Johnson kind of gave DJ Moore some shade about like not trying every play. I like Rome because in 2 receiver sets, I still believe he like whatever. Let's simplify it for Rome. Rome was a first round pick, 8th overall pick, if memory serves correct. Maybe it was 10, but I believe it was 8. I mean, first round, top 12 wide receiver, right? That's talent. That's very good. He wasn't awful, but he wasn't great last season. But he did earn 100 targets in a dog shit offense. That's getting a new offensive line and a new offensive system and a head coach. Luther Burden was a second round pick. Luther Burden's very raw, but very explosive. Loveland, top 10 tight end. I think Loveland at best supplants Komet and is the new Laporta. That did not keep guys like JMO and Amon Ra and Gibbs from eating. So, they talked about Rome and DJ Moore being very versatile, very interchangeable. And I think if anything, Luther Burden is another weapon for Caleb and potentially a replacement for Moore in the offense if Ben Johnson wants to humble Moore or wants to move off of the guy that doesn't give his all every play. But we know that Moore's very talented. We know that Rome was a talented prospect in a bad system in a crowded backfield and still was able to earn a lot of good targets, even if he wasn't super efficient. So I still like Rome. I'm buying Loveland. I'm buying Burden. I'm just buying pieces of this offense because I don't know how they're going to shake out. But if they're a top 10 offense and even a top 5 offense, I want as many pieces as I can because likely they're going to be much like the Lions, where guys are going to have their games, guys are going to have their moments, and I want to have pieces of that. What a shit range of the draft. Eckler here is more than fine. And we'll take Tolbert as our volume access to a potential high volume offense in Dallas. 2572, Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, quarterbacks, running back, Chase Brown, Kamara, Pollard, Rico, and Austin Eckler. Just nothing particularly young and fun outside of Chase Brown. Wide receiver, BTJ, Amon Ra, Rashee Rice, Rashad Bateman, Jaden Higgins, Romeo Doubs, and Jalen Tolbert, and then Laporta and Loveland at tight end. It's just stacking it up and just attacking some role players. Doing our best on the turn in a room where we got all the chat soaking up the nice stuff. I'm sorry, yeah, misspoke. Didn't trade. They signed him to a 1-year deal. Yes. Many running backs were signed for 1-year deals. The point is they prioritized Rico. They spoke highly about him. They spoke about him splitting, and then they drafted a 4th-round rookie. So I'd imagine that, Chuba, the 1A, Rico, the 1B, and Etienne has to fight off to be RB3 before we even talk about him getting de facto RB2 status. 4th-round rookie, and not necessarily like a glowing awesome prospect. That's mainly the crux of it. I mean, we saw Miles Sanders be passable in this offense as a passing outlet and fill in now and then. Rico much more talented than that we saw last year in a similar role. And Rico's upside as a contingent back, pretty nice. I'm not going to, point is, 1-year deal at running back does not mean you're supplanted by a 4th or later round rookie running back necessarily. checking in on this room. I don't know that I'd be taking Chig, considering they did take Gunnar Helm, who looked like a pretty decent tight end in college. Draft capital, not the biggest need as far as which guys get roles necessarily. So I don't know if it's super bullish for Chig. Cam Ward is obviously all boats will rise type of situation. So fine with that theoretically. Bryce Young dropping in these drafts makes no sense to me considering they added uh, a fucking top 8 overall receiver. Elick being a 4th round, I believe, right? Fourth or 5th round guy, not the best. Probably shouldn't be going ahead of Trey Tucker. Darius Slayton should definitely not be going behind Diami, my humble opinion. Jordan Whittington getting drafted there is pretty laughable, especially without Stafford, considering that they brought in Adams and drafted Ferguson and maybe shift and then extended or gave Tutu a 10-year, $1 million 1-year deal. We get Jackson Dart for free. Always feels good. He'll have to be naked, but he's a Russian quarterback, so that'll be fine. Do we do a 6th running back or do we do another receiver? That is the question. I think I feel pretty fine about this running back room. And we pushed receiver quite a ways. So we're looking at, can we stack any of these guys up? We'll have a little bit of fun. Isaac Tesla is probably an awful pick, but he was a 3rd round pick who had an insanely good RAS. They traded multiple picks to get him, and he seemingly, hopefully, takes over the Tim Patrick role or the Khalif Raymond role, which randomly spikes. And we have Goff, and we took him 10 picks at ADP because we had him double stacked. So fuck it, right? I mean, gotta live a little. Yeah, that's the thing. Trevor Etienne is but hope there's a Rico dip. There has been a Rico dip in cumulative scoring on drafters and on Underdog. I've been getting him as late as 170 and 180. I don't think they trade JMO, considering it would make no sense to trade a proven 1st round talent that they traded up to get, who's finally broke out, had a lot of strong coach speak year over year about him. I don't know where that rumor came from, and that's the thing. Any rumor you heard, it doesn't necessarily mean it was substantiated going into the draft, because a lot of teams leak a lot of shit, for multiple reasons, trades, muddy the waters, etc. And I didn't even hear that from a reputable source. Also, again, 3rd round receiver. I'm not trading away my 1st round receiver because I traded up for a 3rd round receiver that I like. Certainly not until I get them in camp. And also, in my Super Bowl winning window, I'd rather have a wealth of weapons and not trading away weapons. So it just doesn't make a lot of this team is not rebuilding. So trading away JMO before the extension doesn't make any sense, especially because they still could work out a very team friendly deal with JMO. And like they can make the cap work. They drafted a lot of young players on defense and offensive linemen. So they could probably let one of the older vets on the line go if they have to pay. They're extending everybody early, and that's how you get ahead of it. So I would be shocked if JMO gets traded at this point. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. If the team wanted to do that, a la the AJ Brown for Treylon Burks thing, you do that to immediately replace that in a Super Bowl window. What's up, Cody? How's it going, brother? You streaming tonight? BB Meat Gazer asking one of our final questions before we wrap up here, and your boy goes and gets some delicious sushi. Any surprise takeaways from these drafts that you are seeing? I am surprised Bryce Young. I think I'm now 13 drafts in, 10 on Underdog, 3 on Drafters so far. Promo code Sanctuary if you're first time depositor on Underdog or Drafters for a deposit bonus. I'm surprised Bryce Young continues to fall. I'm surprised Trevor Lawrence continues to be cheap. I'm surprised McCarthy continues to go where he goes. Drake May is barely risen. Vets like Slayton and Tolbert aren't going ahead of ADP very often. Andrews is still falling, which makes no sense. Dart is still free despite going in the first round. What else stands out? These folks are still kind of tethered to ADP more than they should. For some of these guys, I'm surprised DK Metcalf is still going where he's going. If Olave and Shahid are falling because of the quarterback situation, last time I checked, Pittsburgh does not have Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins on staff. It's Mason fucking Rudolph. So we're not adjusting for like a lack of a true quarterback in Pittsburgh necessarily, which is pretty odd. And people are still taking Najee pretty high despite Hampton getting taken in the first round. So those are my surprises, not just in this room, that I've seen in a couple rooms. No, yeah. That's right. Busy day. What's up, Ben? What about y'all? So those are my surprise takeaways and drafts. Have y'all seen anything pretty crazy? It's not crazy to me that Harvey has risen because he's higher in everybody's ranks. It's not surprising that Hunter goes ahead of ADP, considering all the good coach speak that was said about him. And that's really it. Quarterbacks in these rooms have been falling. I got Jordan Love and I've seen Love and Prescott both in the 130s and 140s. It just seems like these rooms push quarterback. So maybe all the sharps are trying to push quarterbacks really late, which has been odd. So there's some nice value to be had in just quarterbacks falling randomly, which is why I'm not taking a lot of elite tight end right now, because I only want to do that when they get pushed up and it allows me to take less. But right now it feels like you can get a lot of the cheaper guys stacked up at nice prices. Yeah, I don't get it. They just added same thing, like Bryson Love falling despite adding first round receivers. Very odd. It doesn't make sense. Let's check out This Is Fine. I forgot this was your first draft and you did it on stream with 20-second clocks with a sharp room. 2772. Murray and Fields, love that for 2 running backs. Connor, Charbonnet, Etienne, Garindo, Braylon, Justice Hill, Elijah. Nice. Like that room. Lamb, McLaurin, Devontae, Waddle, Reed. I'm still not taking Reed, but I get it. You get a little bit of ADP value. I still think you should be a lot closer to Downs than he's not. And I don't understand that. And Downs has been falling. I don't get Downs falling very much, unless the people are just saying I'm out on the passing offense. But last time I checked, Dimes is a better passer than AR. So like I'm taking Pittman when he falls 20 picks. I'm taking Downs when he's falling 10 picks. I'm taking Pierce. Pierce when he falls. I think Tillman, if Flacco starts, nice target, just fine. Slayton, and then you did the McBride and Likely. Very nice. Stacked up. Nice team. Yeah, no, you could have done a lot worse. Ben Haspel says Devin Neal, Jaden Blue, and Bryce Young too cheap. Neal. I'm blanking on. Wasn't Neal like a 5th round pick? I don't know if Neal's too cheap. I think he might be tethered to who Neal was. Let's do the quick check real quick. I'm still absorbing everything that happened in the draft. 6th round, brother. 6th round Devin Neal. When are we taking a 6th round running back in the top 160? Come on, man. Tell me why Neal is too cheap as a 6th round running back. I think Jaden Blue, very fine to chase. I just think Dallas has shown us they don't give a fuck about. I won't be surprised if Jaden is a very frustrating guy. Dallas is a team that could just sign Nick Chubb if he's healthy. Copy paste date saying even Chuba and Rico falling because of ETN blasphemy. I've gotten Chuba. I mean, yeah, Chuba's been falling ever since Rico got added. Frankly, I think Chuba in the 6 is fine. I would love to rip a Schnauzer. This was my second draft. Tom and I did a BBM right before this. I've got to leave in like 15 minutes to go get sushi for my buddy's birthday. Meet up with the fam. So would love to. We will give you plenty of drafts. I think Typhel Towers live this Thursday. Pretty sure that's on BBG's channel this week. I'll figure it out. Tom, Rich, and I will be getting together Friday for a roundtable. And then don't worry, we will give you plenty of double draft Mondays coming with schnauzers and puppies for sure. Chandler, yeah, sub and like, and hit me with your dynasty question. I'll stay live for another 5 minutes. Got a lot of hot chats. I can give y'all good people another 5. I think some of that is the rookie receivers being pushed up, but I think some of that's also I've seen a lot of people just drafting whoever they want to draft in these early drafts. So everybody's ranks are weird, and some of these no badge folks just click names that they recognize. So I mean, I don't think it's all that. That's certainly part of it. Certainly part of it. I mean, Blue is at least a 5th-round pick on a like. You can say and think what you want about Kamara, but Kamara's being paid like what $25 million this year. Kellen Moore name dropped him multiple times as like the offense running through him. He's been very solid to fine for at least the first half of the years. Kendra Miller isn't dead, and I think that offense is gonna be dog shit. I get why you buy Blue because Javonte was literal dog shit last year. Rico's gone, and Blue's exciting. I don't. So all right, here's the Neil Bull. Neil is talented with a clear path to RB2 behind a 30-year-old running back. He doesn't though. He has to overtake Kendra as well, who was a time. I'm not taking Kendra because like he was never utilized like a full pass catching, and like he was like what 60%, 70% snaps max when Kamara missed. Yeah, I mean, I think you gotta believe the NFL. If they say you were a 5th-round running back, you're a 5th-round running back. Because last time I checked, this NFL did take 2 running backs in the 1st round this year, and then like what 3 or 4 in the 2nd round. So yeah, listen to Charlie. Hit the like. You know what? This is the thing. There's so much to talk through. We barely got through all of it. Sure, but Kamara's not. I want the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round guys at receiver and running back, and even the 3rd round guys, frankly. Lest we forget Trey Benson and Blake Corum to prove it in camp before I like just hit the go button. And that's why I think at this point, buying some of the vets that are getting cheapened because some of our priors have not shifted on the rookies. Trust me, we were saying it's the hope is so high. And I wouldn't even be surprised if like these vets still available or get traded for supplant some of the rookies. If the rookies come in and don't blow the coaching staff away, especially as late round guys, they just don't get work. That's how it works. Trey Benson got supplanted with like Emario DeMarcado for the Cardinals last year. So it's not always wheels up, especially in year one. Some talented prospects take a while to like pop and figure it out. I think if teams said that we're going to go get the guys we like. Denver took RJ Harvey in the top 100. The first time I believe a 24 or older running back has ever been drafted in the top 100. More running backs were taken this year high, not just in total. And also we can say they're more talented, but like the talented guys are typically taken when they're taken, right? I'm not disagreeing that he can't be something, but I wouldn't call it a clear path. And the paths are rarely clear. I think the clear path guys are priced well, and the other guys, it's more ambiguous than we aren't. But I'm putting cold water on that myself because I didn't, one of my blind spots last year was looking at situations with too much determination ahead of time. Oh, Chandler had his dynasty question. 12-team Superflex PPR, would you trade 112 and 2-4 from Mahomes? Hasn't been the same QB he's been, but I still feel like I have to accept this. I mean, it's a little bit team specific. What's your quarterback situation like? Do you not have a viable quarterback? In your rookie draft, are you not confident? I mean, I guess this is assuming that Dart and Ward go both like top 106. I mean, 112 and 2-4. I think there's some decent value to be had there for the receivers and running backs. Mahomes is fine. I think he's set up okay this year. I am personally kind of worried that like they just don't have to try very hard. Yes. Well, I saw that Deontay visited the Browns. Did he sign? I know Robert Woods signed. I'd say if I'm trading for a quarterback, Chandler, I'd want to aim a bit higher for a guy that's like Mahomes' value has now fallen. And once it's fallen once, it can fall again. I know the setup is nice this year on paper and in theory, but if the offense is just designed to kind of like survive the regular season and then try really hard for the offseason, it's just the problem is he's not rushing as much. So from a fantasy perspective, I'd rather get a guy who's still got a rushing component if I'm trading away assets, especially because these assets could appreciate pretty nicely. Okay, so I guess Deontay signed with the Browns. He's making his full AFC North. Let's see, okay, you're saying Dart, Ward, and Sanders already. Sanders being taken is wild. You have Hurts and Purdy. Don't have a third QB for bye weeks in case of injury. That's okay. I'd say try to go after one of the cheaper. Go after a cheaper quarterback then. See what you can't get. And if I am trading for a quarterback, I'm personally aiming higher. Hurts and Purdy is very nice. And the Browns are gifting you a bye week fill-in. Go get Flacco for free off waivers, right? Or go trade like a 6th-round pick for Flacco. Go trade for the whoever doesn't believe that Bryce Young is set up really well with Ted McMillan. Go trade, you know what I'm saying? Like, Russ will probably start 4 to 6 weeks. That covers you for an early buy. Stuff like that. Buy cheap, or buy cheap and buy with stuff that can appreciate more if you're trading away assets is what I would recommend. Michael Zanzelli saying, is Bowers for Genty worth it? In Dynasty? No, brother, you're keeping Bowers. He just set a rookie record at tight end. You hold on to that value. Brown's about to have a historically toxic locker room, almost certainly. Tillman Moore. Yeah, I mean, Tillman's fine. His yards per out run weren't anything special, but he is slated to start on the perimeter and looking pretty good. Taking Will Howard for the Steelers. I mean, Will Howard in general, sure. Will Howard with either one of your 112 or 24? No. But yeah, I think Will Howard's a better shot to start than Mason Rudolph is if they don't sign anybody because they need an answer. You can also trade like a 5th-round pick for like Kirk Cousins. There's still a decent chance that Kirk gets moved in the summer for a Pittsburgh, Cleveland, one of these teams that needs a quarterback going in. Well, thank you. Yeah, and jump in the Discord. Become a member. Jump in the Discord. We have free channels in the Discord, but the paid channels are also really awesome. I think you can get it for like as low as $1 a month. Come join. Come ask lots of questions. Rich and Tom and I are in there answering questions all the time. Rich has awesome Dynasty content. We have a really great community, always asking questions and offering up advice. It's a really awesome community. So come join the Discord. We give lots of this good stuff. Yeah, if someone's trying to buy someone off you repeatedly, then you take it. Yeah, and I assume Titanium Premium. Yeah, no. If you're selling Bowers, it's for the moon. And I certainly wouldn't be doing that anytime soon. All right, folks, thanks for joining. Thank you, and shout out everybody that joined us for our first BBM on the Sanctuary. We'll be back this Friday and every Monday going forward, and we'll let you know when the special streams are coming back up. You can catch me on, it hasn't been announced, but I'm going to be guest streaming Wednesday for a special channel, and then Thursday, I believe, Typhal Tower with myself, BBG, and PPR Tyler will be. Go check out PPR Tyler. He's live right now, and cheers, everybody. Thank you. I will enjoy my sushi. Much love and enjoy, and welcome to hot best ball summer.